Hey folks, Ed from Brain Pulp TV, back with more Magic Online, and today I'm doing something I haven't done in a while. I'm going to be doing a draft league, a Hour of Devastation / Amonkhet Intermediate Swiss Draft League to be exact. Now, I really enjoy Limited, I enjoy Sealed, I enjoy drafting. Not the greatest at it, so keep that in mind when I make my draft picks. Now, speaking of draft, I'm drinking a very special beer while I draft and play today. It is, and I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of this, an Aura Labora beer from Portugal. My wife's family sent this out to me, which was very, very kind of them, and by extension, they're my family as well, too. So thank you guys very much for sending me beer, because that's a gift I will always graciously accept from just about anyone. So without further ado, and with my, I guess this is going to be like a handicap, because I'm not already bad enough at draft, I'm going to be drinking alcohol when I do this one. But yeah, without further ado, let's get to the draft right now. Okay, so what do we have here? We have Oketra's Last Mercy. Your life total becomes equal to your starting life total. Lands you control don't untap during your next untap step. Sounds like a fun card. We have Claim to Fame. Let's see. Return target creature card with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. It's nice. Aftermath, target creature gets +2/+0 and gains haste until the end of turn. Riddle form, I don't mind. I actually don't mind the Vizier as well, too. We definitely would have to go with some Eternalize and Embalm creatures if we're going to pick that. Frontline Devastator is good. Gift of Strength is good. This has got a lot of good stuff in this pack. I like the Gilded Ceradon, I think is the pronunciation. Unsummon as well, too, going all the way down to the, last common. Manolith, which I'm not going to pick first. Kindled Fury. God Pharaoh's Faithful, also good, but let's see. I think I may pick the Vizier or the Gilded here, or even the Frontline Devastator. You know what? I'm gonna pick the Visor, or the Vizier. Sorry, not the Visor. The Resolute Survivors, Steward of Solidarity. This is one of my favorite cards, actually, mostly for the red, not so much for the green, but for the red, I really, really like this bit of removal. So that may actually make me want to go red. Like, I mean, I don't really necessarily need the green. I would pick this card just for the red without having to worry about the aftermath effect. Okay, so we got the Titan, Marauding Bone Slasher, Traveler's Amulet, which would be good to pick later on if we can need some fixing. Tragic Lesson, Steadfast Sentinel. I do like the Camel. Rampaging Hippo is nice. The Sidewinder Naga. Steward of Solidarity. I really like that. You know what? I think I'm going to pick this for the removal right now. There was some decent red before. Yeah, I'm going to pick this for the removal. I don't know if that was the best pick, but green seems open. I might move away from blue and start going green, because the Sharpshooters I really like. I mean, this is a cool card. I think it's something that I would like to play around with in Constructed, not so much in Limited. The Sandwalla I like. Rona's Stalwart. Yeah, I think I'm gonna pick green here. I mean, technically it works well with Struggle to Survive. So let's go with. I'm gonna pick anything from here in green. I mean, the Sandwalla is good, but I think I'm going to pick the Sharpshooters here. The Vizier of the True. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Sharpshooters here. Supreme Will. I mean, we're already got one green and Unquenchable Thirst. They're both good removal. This isn't so much removal. It's counterspell. But I like the ones that give you sort of the options. So if it's going to be a dead counterspell in your hand, at least you can use it for its other option. Chandra's Defeat, 5 damage to target red creature or red planeswalker. I'm not super crazy about that. Dauntless Aven. I really like Dauntless Aven. I'd kind of like to stick just with some of the colors that we have going here, which is right now red, green, and blue. And there's not really much else in white. So, I mean, I could take some of the deserts if I wanted to. The Sidewinder. Now, the Sidewinder is good, but it's better if you already have some of the cycling deserts in hand. I think here I'm gonna actually take the Supreme Will. Yeah, why not? What do we have? Claim to Fame, which we've seen before. Unraveling Mummy is great in specific decks. Unsummoned, so there's still some good blue here. Well, Scrounger of Souls. Beneath the Sands. Beneath the Sands will help us if we do actually want to go 3 colors. There's not much in the way of red anymore. I'm not crazy about this particular desert. I'm thinking here picking either Unsummon or Beneath the Sands. Even Wall of the Forgotten Pharaohs, I don't mind too much. But I think here I'm going to take Beneath the Sands. There's another Sharpshooter, which is great. There's Gift of Strength, which I like as well too. Don't want Crypt of Eternals. Nissa's Defeat, destroy target forest, green enchantment, or green planeswalker. No, not interested in that. Man, another Unraveling Mummy. Whoever's going to go white-black has, got some great cards coming their way. But I'm thinking here either another Bitterbow or Gift of Strength, and I'm thinking Gift of Strength. Yeah, I'm going to take Gift of Strength here. Another Bitterbow Sharpshooter. Oasis Ritualist, which I may end up taking. Torment of Venom, which I like for removal. Is it too late to move into black? I mean, there were a couple of Scrounger Souls that were being passed. Countervailing Winds is good as well, too. Do I like it as much as the Oasis Ritualist, though? You know what? I'm going to take the Ritualist here. Another Gift of Strength. Abomination. Ruin Rats. Proven Combatant. I may just take another Gift of Strength. I mean, Proven Combatant is blue, which is fine. I don't think we're going to go into black at this point. Then there seems to be... White now seems more open than I thought it was a little while ago. I mean, with the Vizier of the Anointed, maybe take the Eternalize, but I think I'm going to take another Gift of Strength here. I think we're back to the original pack. So, I mean, Manalith would be good if we do decide to go into 3, but we only have 1 red card. So, we might move that to the side for now, and then figure out what we would like. Now, do we have much recycling? We just have Beneath the Sands, and that's about it. And this is when you cast a non-creature spell, you may have Riddle Form become... I may take this. Yeah, I think I'm going to take Riddle Form. Tragic Lesson. Frilled Sandwalla is probably what I'm going to take instead, though. I do like Tragic Lesson. But yeah, I think I'm going to take the Sandwalla here. Cunning Survivor. Once again, we don't have much in the way of cycling. I'll probably take the... Actually, another Frilled. I was going to take the Desert, but now I'm thinking of taking the Frilled. I'm going to take a second Frilled here. Sidewinder Naga, which is fine, except I don't really have anything in the way of deserts, but I'll take it for now in case we do decide to pick some deserts. Proven Combatant, even though we probably won't play it. Grab the Mummy, just to get it out of there. And we have an island. So that's the first pack. So it looks like we're in green-blue for the most part. Hopefully we get something decent in this starting pack. Nimble Obstructionist? I don't mind. I don't think we can take red. I mean, there's some good red in this. I really like the Sand Strangler. There's another Frilled. Stalwart as well, too. The Harrier Naga, which I like. The Eternal. Frontline Devastator. But yeah, I don't think I can switch over to red at this point. Maybe, I mean, I might want to splash. Like, Struggle is worth at least splashing, and even then we do already have sort of built-in fixing with like the Oasis Ritualist. I think I may take the Nimble Obstructionist here. Yeah, because Stalwart. Yeah, I'm going to take the Obstructionist here. Okay. This is actually, I mean, I don't see a lot of people play this, but this has actually done well for me in the past. Refuse deals damage to target spell's controller equal to the spell's converted mana cost, and then the cooperate aftermath is target or copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. That said, what else do we have? I mean, Tragic Lesson, I wouldn't mind taking. Cunning Survival. I mean, there's the Desert, of course, too. The Desert turns on the Naga. There's the Hippo as well, too, which is good because it's got cycling. I mean, this actually may be worth taking. And then splashing for black. I do like the Spider a lot. But I think here I'm going to take either the Hippo or the Tragic Lesson. And I think in this case I'm going to take the Tragic Lesson. Okay. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Oh, the River Hoopoe. Which I like. I like the Feral Prowler. There's a lot of stuff for us here. Another Hippo. I'm pretty sure I'm going to take the River Hoopoe. Yeah, given our colors and everything else, this seems to be the most logical choice. I mean, Countervailing Winds is okay. Feral Prowler, I don't mind as well, too. We don't have a ton of cycling still at this point. Yeah, we have some, but not enough, really. So I think I'm just going to take the River Hoopoe here. We can take the Desert, and that's going to help turn on the Naga, because we don't have anything for that yet. I did take the Tragic Lesson, didn't I? Yeah, I took a Tragic Lesson. So either Rona's Stalwart or the Desert here seems good. Traveler's Amulet, if I do want to splash for red for Struggle. I don't know how many more deserts are going to be passed, and this is going to get worse and worse the more deserts we pass up. And I think I like the Stalwart a bit better. So yeah, I'm going to take the Stalwart here. Quarry Beetle. That's not bad. I don't mind the Beetle. It's obviously better if we get some of these cycling deserts. And I keep passing them up. There's Feral Prowler. I think we got a good number of 2-drops, though most of them are spells, not creatures. But I think here I take the Quarry Beetle. Just because of its body. And maybe just start picking some of these cycle lands as well, too. So another Riddle Form, Unsummon. The Spellweaver Eternal. I think I take Unsummon here. Either that or the Eternal, right? Yeah, I'm going to take the Unsummon here. Striped Riverwinder. Yeah, I'll take the Riverwinder here. Yeah, not much here that I really want. I can take the Cunning Survivor, but I'll probably end up cutting it. The Abomination might not be bad to sort of like for some graveyard hate. I may actually want that more than... Now I'll take the Cunning Survivor here. Eternal Spellweaver. Yeah, I'll take the Spellweaver. I will take the Desert here. Okay, so now I have the choice of... I don't want to take another Naga because we only have the one Desert. So chances are this one either is going to get cut or not get turned on at all. So Countervailing Winds or the Feral Prowler. I kind of want the Prowler over top, but now that we have some stuff that'll help with cycling, I'm going to take the Countervailing Winds. Maybe another Tragic Lesson? I don't want another Cunning Survivor. I'll take another Tragic Lesson. Take that and put it aside. And we'll put the Abomination to the side, so at least we have one for the side. Not that we probably will run it at all. What are we doing? We're at 23 right now. So, and we get another island. So now it's the Amonkhet pack. Curator of Mysteries, flying. Whenever you cycle or discard another card, scry 1, cycling of 1. Probably going to be our pick. Patra's Mark. That's not bad. Cartouche's Strength is really good. That may actually... I think we have a decent number of cards of cycling now. We got 1 in the land. It's like 2. Though we probably actually won't necessarily need to run Beneath the Sands. Yeah, I think we got enough for cycling. I wouldn't mind a 4/4 flyer for 4. But we're also really low on removal. So the Cartouche's Strength, I think, would be really good here. You know what? I'm going to take the Curator of Mysteries instead. Gale Strike, return target. Tapped creature to its owner's hand. Essence Scatter. I mean, this is the thing. We have counterspells, so we might be better off. I mean, we don't necessarily need the type of hard removal because we'll have the counterspells. I'm probably going to take the Essence Scatter here. The Initiate's Companion is good as well, too. Cultivator. But yeah, I think here I take the... Yeah, I'm going to take Essence Scatter here. There's Cancel. The Hooded Brawler is good. What is the cycling? And you may search the library for basic land card. Do I like the Hooded Brawler more than the Monitor? That I don't know. There's the Giant Spider as well too, which I think is a good solid creature. Decision Paralysis or Cancel. Once again, we don't have removal, so counterspells may be a good idea. We're at 25, so we're definitely already going to be cutting some of these things right off the bat. Probably the Sidewinder at this point is going to be one of the things that we cut. We don't really need this for fixing. I mean, it's a big butted creature and everything like that. I think I would rather actually take the Hooded Brawler here. You know what? We got a lot of 3. I'm gonna take the Monitor just in case we do want to bring in a struggle. So Champion, which is white, but white and green. Tap all the creatures you control. I mean, that may not be bad. Gift of Paradise. The Vitalist. Probably take the Pouncing Cheetah here. Yeah, I'll take the Pouncing Cheetah. The Manglehorn. Jesus, how is this still out there? That's surprising. I may actually take Stinging Shot and put it in the sideboard. I mean, I like Seeker of Insight. I like Slitherblade. We've got nothing for removal here. And I don't think we have a lot that can deal with flying creatures. I mean, we do have a few flying creatures here, but I think I'm going to take Stinging Shot. Yeah, I'm going to take Stinging Shot and just put it in the sideboard for now. Let's see. Top 5 cards in your library. Scribe of the Mindful. Cartouche of Knowledge. Cartouche of Knowledge might be the pick here. Scribe of the Mindful, I think, is good. Floodwaters could be good as well, too, but I think I take the Cartouche here. Yeah, I'm going to take the Cartouche. Give one of our guys flying. The Aven Initiate could be good for us. As well, too, yeah, we have the Vizier. Where are you? Yeah, because we don't really have much that this guy is going to sort of work with here. So if we do take this, maybe I mean, I still don't think it would be worth keeping him in the deck then. But yeah, I'll take the Aven Initiate here. The Enigma Drake makes me want to... Cartouche's Zeal? Failure, return target spell to its owner's hand. Gale Strike, another Aven Initiate, cancel. Cartouche of Zeal. Cartouche of Zeal. You know what? I may take the Enigma Drake here. Yeah, we don't really have much that can get us red other than the Ritualist, right? No, we also have the Monitor as well, too. I'm going to take the Drake and just put it in the sideboard for now, and that way if we do end up splashing for red, I really like the Drake. Floodwaters again, and then the Mark, Patra's Mark. Being able to give something hexproof would be nice. I think Floodwaters for us would be a bit better. I'm going to grab Floodwaters and just put it in the sideboard for now. The Cultivator makes red more viable. I didn't even see. I wasn't even looking at what this is. Choose a card. Okay, no. Not that we would go with that anyways. I mean, the River Serpent, we've already got a decent number of big creatures. I think I'm going to take the Cultivator here, because it's going to make splashing for red a bit easier. Painted Bluffs as well too could be good, but I'm going to grab Cancel. Grab the Crab and put it in the sideboard. Slither Blade. And Scribe of the Mindful anyways. So blue was pretty open for the entire draft. Right now we've got 33 cards, so we're going to have to cut 10. It shouldn't be too difficult because there's definitely things here that have no real place in the deck. So I'm just going to quickly do some pruning here and see where we end up with as far as our deck goes. Okay, so let's take out Proven Combatant. Yeah, the Vizier of the Anointed. Now, I really don't care about keeping the Cultivator in unless we're going to splash. I mean, there is certain things that would be great that we could ramp into. I would rather have 2 Frilled in the 1-drop, and even the Slither Blade I like better than the Cultivator. So let's take out the Cultivator for now. That puts us down to 30, so we still got to cut 7. Let's go with just 1 Gift of Strength. We can probably cut the Sidewinder, just because we only have the 1 Desert. Beneath the Sands has got Cycling. But once again, I mean, it's good that we have these. We can bring them in if we want to sort of like, if we do want to end up splashing red for either the Drake or for Struggle. But I can probably cut Beneath the Sands. That puts us to 17. Cut 4 more. I think we only need 1 Tragic Lesson. Yeah, we only need 1 Tragic Lesson. Yeah, I don't think we have enough cycling really at this point to warrant putting the Cunning Survivor in there. I don't want to take out any of the counter spells. So Essence Scatter I want to stay in because we have no hard removal in this deck. I'm going to take out Unsummon. Spellweaver Eternal. So that puts us at 15 creatures and 8 other spells. So 2 Frilled Sandwallas, a Slither Blade, we have the Cartouche of Knowledge, Essence Scatter, Riddle Form, Gift of Strength, Rona's Stalwart, River Hoopoe, Countervailing Winds, Nimble Obstructionist, Scribe of the Mindful, Supreme Will, Tragic Lesson, Cancel, Pouncing Cheetah, Aven Initiate, Curator of Mysteries, Oasis Ritualist, Bitterbow Sharpshooters, Quarry Beetle, Shafet Monitor, I think that's how it's pronounced, and the Striped River Winder. So this is definitely not the strongest deck I've ever built, but it's a deck, and we're going to see how it does. And that just oozed confidence. Now, before we kick off the first game, I just wanted to note that this was actually supposed to be sort of live commentary done over the games as they were happening. However, the audio got screwed up, so we're going to be doing commentary over replay, which, I mean, you miss sort of the as things are happening type of feel to it, but at least this way I can sort of like analyze the plays that I made and sort of explain certain things and point out where I made particularly bad mistakes. So let's get into this first game. Okay, so here is our opening hand, and as you can see, there's not a single land, so that's not good, so we are not going to keep this. We do mulligan into something that's a little bit better. As you can see, we got a turn 2 play, which is great, and a turn 3 play, and if we catch one more land, a turn 4 play. So this one I decided to keep, and I actually put Supreme Will on top because I am kind of excited to get a counter spell early on in the game, especially one that doesn't do a straight up counter, but requires them to pay a bit of extra mana to prevent. So we're going to go out and, sorry, they get to play first. Been a while since I watched this. They start off with not a bang, but they do get to play something instantly, the Traveler's Amulet, so I'm guessing they're 3 colors. And we play the Desert, which makes the most amount of sense because it comes into play tapped. So not much in the way of gameplay happening right off the bat. They play another land. So do we, and we get our River Hoopoe out, which is great. Now, I was sort of worried about a Essence Scatter or something like that. Luckily, we didn't catch that. However, counterspells will definitely be a major part in this game. So they grab their third color, which sucks for us because it's always nice if your opponent can, at least be a little bit delayed if they're playing 3 colors, getting their 3 colors out, but that wasn't the case this time. And they bring out the Harrier Naga. So 3/3 versus our 1/3 with flying, not the greatest. Now, here we catch a Bitterbow Sharpshooters, which we obviously can't play for quite a while. I have a decision here, and this decision actually ends up being probably one of the worst mistakes I make in the entire game, and really, in the long term, looking back sort of like in hindsight, was such a bad play on my part. We're going to play out another land, obviously, and I have a choice here of either playing out Scribe of the Mindful or holding up for Supreme Will. Now, I should have stopped and thought things through a little bit more. I was thinking I could make him cast like his next creature into a Supreme Will. However, he's got a 3/3. I've got a 1/3. I really should have cast the Scribe here because both of these could have double blocked the Harrier and potentially killed it. And if not, they still would have been forced to cast a spell and tap down their mana in order to save the Harrier if they were going to swing in with it to begin with. So I end up deciding not to cast the Scribe, and I want to hold up for Supreme Will, hoping that they don't have a lot of counterspells. They are playing 3 colors, so there's a chance that maybe they didn't pick a lot of counterspells, but they also have the exact mana they need for like a Supreme Will. So, anyways, you'll see why this is a bad decision in just a moment. So I swing in with the Hoopoe because I realize I'm not going to cast a Scribe, so there's no point in holding it back because I'm certainly not going to throw this in front of the Naga anytime soon. And I just pass the turn. So once again, this is not the best move on my part, especially in hindsight. So they simply play an island, swing in, and say I can go. Now this is when I realized how bad of a mistake I made, because now I'm in the position where I have to play something and I am convinced that they have a counterspell. So I can play a 4th land, which is great. I can cast Curator of Mysteries, but I don't. I go for the Scribe because I'm fairly certain whatever I'm about to cast is going to get countered. So I cast the Scribe, and sure enough, Supreme Will comes down. I don't have the mana to pay, and it goes to the graveyard. So once again, very, very poor play on my part. I don't swing into the River Hoopoe. I probably should have, just because I knew I didn't have anything. I was hoping maybe I could convince them I had something with 1 green, so maybe they wouldn't swing in, but of course they're going to swing in, so I probably should have kept swinging in with the River Hoopoe as well too. So they swing in, and this is when I realize I'm in real bad shape, because they tap a bunch of lands, they untap, they tap, they untap, and then they pass the turn. So this is when I realize they probably got another counterspell. Maybe it's a Supreme Will, I don't know. I now have enough to cast either the Curator or the Bitterbow Sharpshooter. I like the idea of Curator actually living, so a bit more than the Bitterbow Sharpshooters. They're both great creatures, but I do prefer to have a 4/4 flyer, so I'm going to throw the Bitterbow Sharpshooters under the bus here and attempt to cast it, and I do run directly into another copy of Supreme Will. So that sucks for us, but what are you going to do? Once again, very, very poor play on my part when it came to holding up for Supreme Will instead of actually trying to cast something. And once again, I'm swinging with the River Hoopoe. At this point, I'm actually considering blocking the Naga, because I don't think I'm going to be able to take 3 damage like every single round for too much longer. I don't though, which means I've completely wasted another attack with the Hoopoe that I could have just swung in for. So now I'm looking for them to tap down as much blue mana as possible. They still have 3 up, so maybe they have a 3rd copy of Supreme Will. Now keep in mind, this is a draft, so the chances of them getting 3 copies of Supreme Will is probably very low. I mean, the chances of them getting 2 copies of Supreme Will seems pretty low, but I still think here I'm going to run into a counterspell, but I can't really hold back much longer, specifically because now this is going to get flying. I do decide to cast the Curator Mysteries. knowing full well it could get countered by any number of things, and it does hit the board. So for that, I'm pretty happy. I don't swing in with the River Hoopoe, and I think, hey, everything's going my way. And then, on their turn, yeah. So, Illusory Wrappings, making the Curator a 0/2. Now, I could not block with the Curator of Mysteries here. I do end up throwing another bus, and I end up cycling Countervailing Winds to try to get a bit of extra value from this, but... So yeah, I'm going to put the Hoopoe there to block it, and I put the Curator in front of the Naga, and I go ahead and cycle in order to get a little bit of extra value from the Curator. An island, not what I want to see, so I put that on the bottom. The Frilled Sandwalla is great, except now everything they have has flying, so that kind of sucks for us. The Curator is going to go to the graveyard. We take no damage, so small victories and all that. And the River Hoopoe lives. Now, I also have the mana to start using the River Hoopoe's abilities. However, at this point, I'm still taking 3 per turn, because even if the River Hoopoe continues to block the Aerial Guide, I'm still going to be taking 3 per turn. You only gain 2 life from this. You do get to draw a card, which is really, really great. So, part of me considered just doing the Frilled Sandwalla and then holding up for the ability, but I thought I would like to actually start, trading with some of their stuff soon, so I'm going to end up playing the Sandwalla and the Aven Initiate in the same turn here. So this gives me a bit of a board state. I feel like I'm starting to slowly equalize. They only got 2 cards in hand. They're going to draw another one, but then at the end of my turn, consign. So they're going to return this back to my hand once again, sort of setting me off, and I'm going to be taking another 3 damage this turn for sure. But now, of course, I'm going to be taking more than 3 damage, so I can either put the River Hoopoe in front of the Aerial Guide and prevent myself from taking 6 and just make it 3, but I'll lose the Hoopoe, or I can let 6 through. I decided to take, I think, 6 here. Do I? Yes, I decided to take the 6 here. I'm in bad shape to begin with. I know I can get the Aven Initiate out next turn. I'm hoping that they've run out of tricks. I mean, they've used Illusory Wrappings, consign 2 Supreme Wills, Travis Amulet, so they didn't really have much in the way of creatures in their hand, and the Cartouche of Knowledge. I'm hoping they've run out of gas or tricks in their hand, and maybe I can start gaining a bit of ground. And then they cast the Bitterblade Warrior, which I'm not too worried about. It is going to be on the ground, and this can only give flying to one of them. So I think maybe I might be able to start playing catch up here. We also have the Striped Riverwinder, which I can't cast yet, but I can always cycle away if I really want to. So here I'm going to bring out the Initiate, and I hold up 1 blue in case I want to cycle the Striped Riverwinder. I may, at this point, I mean, there's still a lot that they can cast that's going to make it so they don't have 3 mana to play for Supreme Will, but the longer the game goes on, the more Supreme Will looks like it's going to be used for its look at the top 4 cards ability. So, I don't know if I'm really going to be able to counter anything with Supreme Will at this point. So once again, now the good thing is I do have green and blue up, so I can pump the Sandwalla up. So it looks like I am going to be able to trade with at least 2 of their creatures. Yeah, I don't want to take, I mean, there's no point in me taking 3 extra damage as well, too. So here I'm going to try to do a little bit of work. And this just leaves 3, like a 3 power creature on the ground. So I don't have to worry about flyers anymore. And their end step, they didn't cast anything, and all their mana is untapped. So I honestly think I'm going to run into another counterspell here, but I have no choice. Like, I can't not cast something, so I can either go with the Striped Riverwinder, or I can flash out the Aven, not flash out, I could embalm the Aven Initiate. So I play the land, and I just go ahead and I believe the Riverwinder. Now I do have a creature that can block and kill the Harrier, so I'm less worried. I mean, they're in green, right? So they have so many different ways of pumping something, but at least at this point, I know I have a decent blocker for this, and I can actually stop it from swinging in for any more damage. Feral Prowler, which is not the worst thing to happen, and they just go ahead and pass the turn. So I'm still in bad shape. I'm not good, but I've slowly started to equalize. Sadly, I've equalized when I only have 5 left. So here I'm going to go ahead and embalm the Aven Initiate. Now, I could obviously hold it for cancel. I could hold it for Supreme Will. I need to get creatures on the board, because even being in a situation where not being able to block even just the Feral Prowler, it's going to slowly whittle away on my health. And there's any number of spells which could pump the Feral Prowler. If I don't block it, that could kill me. So I decided to cast the creature instead, or embalm the creature instead. Now, from here on out, I do have a cancel and I do have a Supreme Will, so I'm going to be able to like start countering some of their spells. So I'm hoping I can maybe at this point dig myself out of the ditch that I've fallen into. Another island, not exactly what I wanted to see. I would rather see, like, you know, some sort of playable card, but you gotta play what they give you. I swing in with the Aven Initiate here, because now if they do start swinging into the Feral Prowler, unless they can somehow give one of these flying, I have a chance of winning the damage race, and I'm not in a position where I can really wait them out, because every time they draw a card, they're going to get closer and closer to an answer, which is just going to shut down my board. So yeah, so now they give the Naga +3/+3. I mean, they could have made it so that I had to have a choice between these two, but this makes sense because now I have to block the Naga, and it's going to it's going to kill the Riverwinder, and they're still going to be able to get in for 1. So that kind of sucks. Here I go ahead and I just use the Supreme Will's look at the top 4 cards ability. And I believe of the Cartouche of Knowledge and the Nimble Obstructionist, I think I take the Nimble Obstructionist here. Yes, I do. Yeah. So this allows me to actually trade and kill. I mean, granted, I'm going to be losing 2 creatures for their 1. It's not the best trade-off, but at least the Naga is going to be dead. And now I'm going to have the Aven Initiate up, which can easily block the Feral Prowler. So yeah, that's not ideal, but I'm not in a position to, once again, really let them get more damage through. And blocking with just 1, there is the argument to be made that I could have just blocked with the Nimble Obstructionist, and maybe that would have been the best thing to do, because that would have left me the Striped Riverwinder. But at the same time, I mean, I have cancel, so I can counter whatever thing they cast next turn anyways, but I thought getting the Naga off the board was more important. Maybe that was a mistake. Probably was, but here. Now, once again, at this point, I'm thinking, if they don't have anything to pump, and they would have, if they had a pump in hand, even though I think they might have been actually tapped out of green, if they had a pump in hand before that could have did the difference, they would have swung in, I think, with both and just pumped both of them. So I don't put them on having something that can pump the creatures in hand. And I really want to try to start whittling them down. So I might have, it probably was a better idea to hold back the Aven Initiate, but at this point I just need to try to get some damage in, as opposed to just waiting for them to be able to get something going. Now, here they're going to cast Trial of Knowledge. Now, they already used a Cartouche. I don't obviously know if they have another Cartouche in hand and if they're going to be able to bounce this back. I'm curious what you guys think about this, because I end up, we'll just go forward just a bit, and I end up countering this with cancel. Now, my thought was I didn't want them to be able to draw cards at this point. However, looking back at the game now, I'm curious if maybe it was a better decision to allow them to draw and then cancel whatever they were going to cast to make the, like, you know, to try to make a difference on the board. I still don't think this is the worst decision. It's definitely not the worst decision I made this game. So, but I am curious if you guys think at this point it was better for me to counter the card draw, or was it better for me? Would it have been better for me to wait and then counter whatever they were going to cast next? Now, granted, you guys are going to see what they're going to cast next, so you'll realize, you know, that probably I should have saved the cancel. But given at the time, knowing no other, like, you know, foresight into what was happening in the game, let me know what you guys would have thought here. Once again, I swing in with the Initiate because I have now a blocker that I can hold back. And I'm going to be able to pump the Sandwalla, so I can definitely take out the Feral Prowler, stopping them from attacking. So at this point, I'm thinking maybe I have a chance of pulling this game out of the fire. I didn't catch the fact that they had a land in their graveyard, which I should have, because they used that land in order to pump one of their creatures previously. So we're not dead yet, because I can definitely still block one of them, and even if I let the hostile desert through, I can still block the Feral Prowler. However, and this is, obviously why I think maybe I should have held on to the cancel, but Overcome. And Overcome is a card which has actually killed me in several games, both in Magic Online and in Paper Magic, so I'm really beginning to hate Overcome. So this is going to pump up their creatures, and I have no real good blocks here. And it's got Trample. They got Trample as well, too. So, I mean, even if I pump this up, I'm still going to be taking 3 from the Desert and then 3 from the Feral Prowler. If I block the Feral Prowler, I'm going to be taking 5 from the Hostile Desert. So here I'm just dead. So I decide, of course, to scoop and move on. I didn't scoop, actually. I guess I just let the damage through. So yeah, that was not the best first game I could have had. Certainly wasn't the best plays. It's so easy to look back in hindsight and go, oh, that was a bad play, that was a bad play. Even without hindsight, I do think that that very early play of holding up for Supreme Will as opposed to casting the Scribe of the Mindful, that was just a bad mistake at the time. Even just with what knowledge I had of the board state and everything at that moment, that was a mistake I made that was bad in the moment. Using cancel when I did, that's the one I'm sort of more curious about as far as what you guys think, if it was bad at the time or if it was just sort of obviously bad in hindsight because I could have held on to it and then canceled something like Overcome instead. Anyways, moving on to the next game. Okay, so here we are in game 2, and this is our opening hand. 2 islands, the Sandwalla. We have things that we can cast. Granted, they're not creature spells. We're 1 away from being able to get the Obstructionist out. We can get Riddle Form out on 2, and we have Unsummon in hand as well. So Unsummon I thought was important because they did have certain spells which pumped their creatures at certain times, and that would be great to have Unsummon in our hand for that. So I believe I end up keeping this hand. Once again, it's been a while since I played this game. I do end up keeping this hand. Maybe that wasn't the best idea, but I also know that I can cycle the Riverwinder right on turn 1, which is exactly what I do, I believe, at the end of their turn, yeah. So they play one of the tap deserts, and I go ahead and cycle the Riverwinder. And I catch Tragic Lesson, which is not an unwelcome card to see. I would have rather obviously have a land, so I can guarantee that I have 3 lands. Once again, on turn 2, I do not catch a 3rd land, or more specifically a forest, which would be really, really nice, but, not much I can do. So I go ahead and just cast Riddle Form here. And this I'm actually going to be able to activate with Unsummon. I can activate it with Tragic Lesson if I do catch a 3rd land. So I'm pretty happy actually to have Riddle Form out. Now, this ended up sort of giving me an interesting decision that I could make at this point. I was going to hang on to Unsummon, obviously, for when something was going to get pumped up, but the Labyrinth Guardian, which has Embalm of 3 and 1 blue, they have to sacrifice it whenever it becomes the target of a spell. So Unsummon now for this is essentially removal. Not that a 2/3 is super, super big deal, but we don't have any green yet to get a Frilled Sandwalla out there. The Nimble Obstructionist would not be able to block this. So when we skip ahead to my turn, and I catch an Essence Scatter, so I do not catch the 3rd land that I was really, really hoping for. So at this point, I figure, what the hell, I'm going to Unsummon the Guardian, which makes them sacrifice it. And Riddle Form goes off, so we're going to be able to have a 3/3 flyer. So I am going to be able to get in for a bit of damage. Now, once again, I might have wanted to wait, but I didn't see there being a better target given the fact that I'm obviously low on land. I thought maybe I should start trying to get aggressive, get some early damage in. So once again, that may not have been the best. I'm also like, you know, I don't know if you guys end up feeling this way, but when you come off a loss, sometimes you're not as focused as you should be, and you sort of let the loss get to you a little bit. I can't remember exactly what my mind frame was at this point, but there is a chance I wasn't quite on tilt, but I may not have been making the best decisions ever. However, I did go ahead and cast Unsummon, so we're going to swing in for 3. And sadly, I don't have the third land. The third land would have been really, really important, really, really useful, but I don't have it, so not much I can do. I would have loved to have been able to hold back a third land, or had a third land, and not cast Unsummon, because they're off white right now. Remember, they are blue, green, and white. So I could have cycled the Obstructionist instead of even flashing out. I could have cycled it to stop them from catching a land here. Instead, I don't have 3. They're going to bring out the Proven Combatant, which I'm not obviously too worried about. But I could have used the Obstructionist in order to prevent the Amulet, though they don't use it right away. So it's not, you know, super important. Here, I do get a third land. It's not a forest, which would have been better, but I do have a third land. So I decided to cast Tragic Lesson instead of holding up for the Obstructionist. Whether or not that was the right move, I don't know. I really need to catch a forest sometime soon, and I mean, I could have held up Nimble Instructionist to cycle it for stopping them from getting their third land, but I didn't. At the time, I guess I didn't think it was the right play to make, and it allows me to get in for 3 more damage, so it's going to put them down to 14. So I end up, sorry, I sort of jumped through that. I end up drawing Gift of Strength and Aven Initiate, and I just go ahead and pitch the Gift of Strength because I don't have any forests. So I was really hoping for forest there, didn't get it. And here is they reveal planes. They're going to play it, which they do. And my life starts going downhill. So now I really wish, once again in hindsight, I had held up for cycling of Nimble Obstructionist, allowing me to stop the Traveler's Amulet from finding them a plains. I swing in for 1, which is not the end of the world. And of course, no more land. So this is really going poorly. I mean, I'm the one that kept the opening hand, right? So I've got no one to blame but myself on this. And I know I could cycle the Curator of Mysteries, but I really was holding out hope that I could pull 1 more land off to cast it, because I really would like a 4/4 flyer out there. And of course, the Monitor has cycling as well too, but I need a green for it. So here they're going to go ahead and swing in for 5, which sucks. And that puts us even as far as life totals go. Once again, this might have been a good reason why I should have hung on to Unsummon, or even Tragic Lessons, because I could have activated Riddle Form on their turn. It probably was more useful to activate on their turn, especially now. Not that it could block the 4/4 to any great effect, but oh well, this is the world we're living in now, so we got to sort of move on. Now they do get to embalm the Labyrinth Guardian, and this I can cycle the Obstructionist. Now, was it better to cycle this and stop the Labyrinth Guardian from hitting the board, or should I have flashed it out? I don't know. I personally just didn't want them to get another creature on the board. So I finally catch a 4th land from the cycle, and I also catch followed up by a forest. So now all of a sudden I've got the lands that I need. I can only cast 1 creature here, and I decided to go ahead and cast the Curator of Mysteries. They only got 1 blue up. I know it's not going to get Supreme Willed, so I don't have to worry about that. So we now have 4/4 on the board. Now, a 4/4 flyer, I'm pretty sure I just would block and trade with the champion here. I don't get to really do that. At least I still do get to block the champion, but I don't get to actually trade with it because, once again, Illusory Wrappings, which is a great card in blue. If you're playing blue and you can get a copy of this in your draft or limited, it is super great because it does exactly this to one of your biggest creatures that you could possibly get out. So sad, but what are you going to do? And I go ahead and put this in front because at this point it's not really useful to me. I mean, it does have the extra ability when it comes to cycling, but I'm not going to be cycling the Monitor. I'm going to be trying to get both the Initiate and the Sandwall out next turn, so I don't see the point in taking an extra 4 points of damage. Okay, so now they do have 3 up, which means they have probably Supreme Will. So it doesn't matter if I cast the Initiate first or second, because I'm not going to be able to cast the Initiate and pay 3 for Supreme Will. And I'm only got 1 other land, so it's going to be a while before I can cast the Initiate and have 3 in reserve. So here I just go ahead and I bring out the Frilled Sandwalla, and I go ahead and eat a counterspell. Supreme Will, saw that coming, but I think I still made the right choice. The good thing is that we've now got 5 and then a 6 land in hand, so next turn, instead of them using Supreme Will on the monitor, they used it on the 3/2 flyer, which I can also bring out from the graveyard, because we will have, hopefully, what's this, 5, 6, 7, hopefully we'll have 7 soon. We don't have it quite yet, we just have enough to cast the monitor next turn, but if we catch another land, we can also bring out the Aven Initiate. So don't get to pump the Frilled Sandwalla, which sucks. And I do decide to, I could have traded with the Proven Combatant. I didn't really see the point in losing something that could actually, the following turn, pump itself, or in future turns, I should say, pump itself, just to prevent 1 extra damage, so I did not trade with those 2. Now this sucks as well, too, because they got the Oasis out, which gives target creature +3/+3, and they've got 2 deserts, including itself, to sacrifice to it. So things aren't looking great for me, but I do know that I'm going to get the monitor out next turn, which is super important now, because the Rampaging Hippo is a huge game changer given its size and trample. So I go ahead and cast the monitor. I'm at 9, which is awful. And once again, if they have Override or whatever the hell that spell was again, I'm in bad shape. Instead, they give the Hippo flying because, it's not bad enough with being a 5/6 trampler. It's now a 5/6 trampler flyer, which I can't touch. And it's a 6/7. It's going to become a 9/7. I'm tapped out. There's nothing really I can do about it. Yeah, sure enough, they make it a 9/7, and I just scoop. So we lose the first match of this draft, which sucks. And my opponent's deck was solid, so I don't feel super, super bad about losing to it. I did make some mistakes. Whether or not, if I hadn't made those mistakes, we would have won in the end, that I don't know. I don't want to take anything away from my opponent's deck, because it's not like the stupid mistakes on my part definitely cost me these games. But yeah, I could have played a bit better, and I tried to, moving on into the next match, I try to keep that in mind, and I try to sort of, each time you play, you try to make less and less mistakes. Or you can let it bother you and go on tilt and start sort of going on a bit of a losing bend. However, I'm going to try to rally at this point, from what I remember, and move on and get a couple wins under our belt, and maybe still end up with some packs in this, because you need at least 2 match wins to get packs, and we're already down 1, which means we have to win the next 2 matches to get packs. So let's move on to the second match and see how we do there. Okay, so here we are in the first game of the second match. We won the die roll, so we get to go first, which is great for us. And this is our opening hand. And I definitely decided to keep it. I'm almost 100% sure I decided to keep this opening hand. We can get either the Stalwart or the River Hoopoe out on turn 2, and we have a turn 3 play. So overall, I think this is pretty good. This is a pretty good opening hand. Yes, good thing I decided. If I decided to mulligan this, I would have had no idea what I was doing at the time, looking back at it now. But I decided to keep it, so I think that was the right decision. So we play out a forest and an island, and then we're going to play the Stalwart. Yes, now I believe the reasoning behind this is because Stalwart's a 2/2. It can swing in for 3 next turn, because chances are on a turn 2 they're not going to have something that has a power of 2 or more, or of over 2 or 3 or more, I should say. So I play this out instead of the River Hoopoe, because I think it'd just be a more useful attacker early on in the game. And luckily I am correct in this. It is the Cunning Survivor, a 1/3. So I'm going to go ahead and swing in and exert here. Now, I decided to hold up for Pouncing Cheetah because it does have flash, so I can flash it out at the end of their turn. Or if they decide to swing in this without cycling first, which is what I'm sort of hoping, I can actually trade with the Pouncing Cheetah. Or not trade, I could actually block it and kill the Cunning Survivor, and the Pouncing Cheetah would hopefully live. However, they do decide to cycle, so this gets a slight buff, and it can't be blocked, so there's no point in me springing the Pouncing Cheetah on out as a blocker. However, I do still flash it out at the end of turn, because now that's going to give me a 3/2 attacker at the beginning of my turn. So. And that's super great. We caught another land. Not that we really needed another land, but the draw of the Curator of Mysteries is really, really great, because now we can get this out on this turn, and it's going to give us a board presence of a 4/4, a 3/2, and a 2/2, which could actually pump itself up to a 3/3. So we swing in for 3. Worst time talking ever. And I'm going to go ahead and cast the Curator of Mysteries, so we have a 4/4 flyer on the board, which is really, really great for us as well. So they cycle again to make this unblockable, which is fine, because I'm perfectly fine eating another 2. Now they catch the land that they were off of, which is very important, because, I mean, no one wants to lose because they're either mana screwed, flooded, or color screwed. So it's nice for our opponent anyways that they caught their second color. Not so great for us, but still. We're still in pretty good shape here. So they swing in for 2 uncontested damage because we can't block it even if we wanted to. Now I'm hoping they don't cast anything else here. Trial of Ambition. So, I mean, not the best spell for us, not the worst as well too, because we do have 3 creatures to choose from. We are going to go ahead and sacrifice the Stalwart here. It would have been nice to swing in for 3 damage on top of this, because we would have done 7. We would have been able to swing in for 10 if they hadn't cast the Trial. But still, it's kind of nice to swing in for the 7. We catch Supreme Will, which is really great, because now we also have a counterspell in our back pocket, which we can cast the River Hoopoe and still hold up for Supreme Will. So we're going to swing in for 7 here. They're not going to be able to do anything about it. So we have lethal on the board. We are able to get another creature out there, and we have a counterspell in hand. We are really doing well, unless whatever they cast now only costs 2. Luckily, it doesn't. They go for Horror of the Broken Lands. I don't see the point in not countering this, so we're just going to go ahead. Supreme Will, and they decide to scoop. So a much better showing in the first game of the second match than we had in either of the games of the first match. We're going to move on to the second game of this match, and we'll see if our luck holds out. Okay, so here we are in the second game, and as you can see, not as good of an opening hand as we've had in the previous game. We can cast the Cartouche of Knowledge on 2, but we have nothing that we can cast it on. We don't have green to even cycle the Monitor. We are 1 off from the Curator of Mysteries, and we will have enough mana to cast Supreme Will on turn 3. Now, I can't actually remember whether I keep this or mulligan. I think I keep it. I do keep it. Probably not the best idea ever, but still. We're up 1 game, so maybe it works out for us. I already know, of course, but we'll see in a second. So we do catch our 4th land, which is great, because now we're going to be able to cast Curator of Mysteries on turn 4. But turn 4 is a long ways away, so it would have been nice to catch maybe something I could play on turn 2 instead. Immediately they catch their swamp, so this time they are not going to be off color for several turns. And they have the Spellweaver Eternal on the board. Now, I don't end up playing the Desert of the Mindful because I've already got 2 islands. I would rather be able to cycle this away at this point. So I don't play it because I don't care about the fact that I can play it now and then it will be untapped by the following turn, because I'm literally just going to be using the Desert of the Mindful as a cycling card. So they swing in for 2. And they cast a creature, which I'm really not excited about seeing hitting the board at this point, given our board state, and that is the Cursed Minotaur, which has Menace. It's a 3/2 with Menace, so even if we're able to get a creature on the board, we can't block this. Not right away, anyways. We need 2 creatures, obviously, to block a Menace creature, so now knowing what they have, we might have not we probably shouldn't have kept that opening hand regardless of knowing what they had anyways. But yeah, it's not looking super great for us. We do get to cycle the desert here, and we catch a Scribe of the Mindful. So now we have a creature that we can cast next turn, and then we could always pump it up with the Cartouche of Knowledge and so on and so forth. But let's see if we even get that far. So we catch another island, still no forest, which isn't a huge deal, because the only thing we'd be using the forest for at this point is to cycle the Monitor. And we're going to bring Scribe of the Mindful out. Now, at this point, they swing in with both. I can't remember if I block here. I mean, there's a reason to block here just simply to slow them down a little bit. But on the other hand, I know I can put the Cartouche of Knowledge on this, or I can cast the Aven Initiate instead. So either I can set it up so that the Scribe of the Mindful is able to actually block and kill the Spellweaver, which does have prowess, so all they would need to do is cast any other spell and it would still trade even with Cartouche of Knowledge. So here I think I just go ahead and try to trade with it. Yeah, so I throw the Scribe of the Mindful under the bus. I'm going to take 2 from Afflict. Afflict is such a good ability. And unfortunately here, this really doesn't work out for us because it's going to... I mean, once again, if I had waited till I could cast the Cartouche of Knowledge on it and then trade it, this exact same thing would have happened anyways. So then what I would have done is I would have also lost the Cartouche of Knowledge. So I'm not super upset with the choice I made here. I still think it was the right choice. Anyways, the Spellweaver Eternal prowess triggers. However, more importantly, it is now going to be indestructible. So we still take 2 because of Afflict. They're going to get 3 in with the Minotaur, and we're going to lose our creature, and they're going to keep theirs. So this is going a lot worse for us than the first game did. And they also get to bring out the Cunning Survivor. So we're at 13. They now have 3, 4, 5, 6, which could easily get pumped up to 7, 8 on the board. So not the greatest, and one of them we can't even block unless we get a second creature out. Now, it's good that we get a low-cost creature that we might be able to get on the board fairly quickly that could sort of block something with Menace, but it's the Frilled Sandwalla, so we still don't have a forest, so we're not going to be able to cast it. Instead, we're going to go ahead and cast Curator of Mysteries here. So now we have something that can block both the Spellweaver Eternal and the Cunning Survivor, providing they don't cycle and make this unblockable. And if we do block the Spellweaver Eternal with the Curator of Mysteries, they are going to have to cast 2 spells in order to give it the prowess enough to make it so that it's going to trade with the Curator. So I'm feeling pretty good about this. We can't do anything about the Minotaur, which is unfortunate. I think here they do end up having a cycling card, so they're going to be able to swing in for 5 without me touching them. Unsummon. No, they're going to be able to swing in for a lot more than that. That's right. Curator of Mysteries goes back to the hand, so I thought maybe I was making a bit of progress, starting to equalize a little bit, but not so much. And they do get the cycle as well, too. So the worst case scenario of them being able to swing in for a total of 8 this turn comes true. And they do, in fact, swing in for 8, which is going to put us at 5. Now, we catch a little bit of luck here in the fact that we get a forest, I believe. Sometimes it takes forever to skip through this. There we go. This is one of the reasons why I don't like doing commentary. I'd prefer to actually be talking over live play. Yes, we do catch a forest here. So we can get both the Sandwalla and the Aven Initiate, which will allow us to block the Cursed Minotaur. So this still doesn't mean that we're in very good shape. Sorry, we cast the Curator of Mysteries and the Frilled Sandwalla, not the Aven Initiate, of course, because this is a 4/4 body. So this way we can double block the Cursed Minotaur, and we can't pump the Frilled Sandwalla, but we can still have a Curator of Mysteries alive by the end of the blocking stage. However, they do get to cycle. So now this is going to be able to slip through, and we can't do anything about it, which sucks. And we go ahead and block the Cursed Minotaur. And that puts us at 1. Now, the problem is that this has Afflict. So providing they don't have something which makes us unblockable, we still have to figure some way out to deal with the Spellweaver in a way that means we don't have to block it and it can attack. So at this point, unless a pretty big answer comes our way, and given our deck, I think Unsummon is like the only thing we have that could sort of deal with that. And even then, that's only going to be delay. So it's not looking good. And then they cast, as the extra nail in the coffin, the Eternal here, which also has Afflict of 1, which is all they need. So we're pretty screwed here unless we catch something pretty amazing. We catch another Forest. I go digging with Supreme Will, but I'm fairly certain nothing's going to help us. And I just go ahead and concede the game. So now we're going to move on to the third game and see if we can't manage to get a match win in this draft. Okay, so here we are in the third game. All right, so here is our opening hand. We have a Forest and an Island, a Frilled Sandwalla. We can play the Hoopo on turn 2 or Riddleform on turn 2. And we also have the Cartouche Knowledge. We're a ways away from being able to cast the Curator of Mysteries, which, by the way, has shown up in our hand early really often in this draft. But it's only a 2-land opening hand, but given the cards we have, I still think this is something worth keeping. So we are not going to mulligan here. I'm fairly certain. No, we do not mulligan here. And we get to play first as well, too, so we're going to get the Frilled Sandwalla out. So we just go ahead and we swing in with the Frilled Sandwalla. And I think here, I'm not entirely sure, do I pump it or do I hold back and cast Riddleform? Okay, so I don't pump it, which means I'm going to cast either Riddleform or River Hoopo here. I think I cast Riddleform. Yeah, now I cast Riddleform, and as far as I remember, this is my thinking. Next turn, even if I don't catch another land, I definitely want to give the Frilled Sandwalla +1/+1 and flying. So this will mean that instead of only being able to swing in for 3 next turn, I can potentially swing in for 5 by casting the Cartouche, making Riddleform go off, and swinging him a 3/3 flyer and a 2/2 Frilled Sandwalla. So that's why I believe I went ahead and cast Riddleform instead of the River Hoopo. So they go ahead and cycle the Horror of the Broken Lands. So here's the Eternal, which, obviously was something that could have wrecked us in the last game because of the Afflict. Not so big of a deal early on in the games, but definitely something later in the game which makes a much bigger difference. So we do catch another land, which is great because it allows us to hold up for Supreme Will or cast it for its non-counter ability. So I think here, what do I do? I go ahead with the original plan, which I was talking about before. I cast the Cartouche of Knowledge on it. This also makes it so that we can fly over top of the Eternal and they can't trade with the Frilled Sandwalla, or at least they can't block the Frilled Sandwalla and force us to pay 2 in order to pump it to a 3/3. And we get to draw a card, which is great. And we catch another Frilled Sandwalla. So that's kind of nice. It would be nicer if we had 2 green sources, but we don't. So we're going to swing in for 5 here. So a nice aggressive, turn, this is the beginning of their turn 3. That was the end of our turn 2. No, that was the end of our turn 3, and we already got them down to 14. So I'm pretty happy with how things are going so far. The Cursed Minotaur, which is still not great, but it's not as bad as it was before, because even if we just sort of cast the Frilled Sandwalla, we can potentially block with 2 blockers. I'm not going to bother blocking right now. I want to keep up the aggression, so they're going to swing in for 2, because we can still win this race. Now, we definitely want to catch another land here. We don't, but we do catch a creature, which is okay as well, too. So we're going to go ahead and, yes, we are going to... Oh, no. Okay, I thought we were going to cast Scribe of the Mindful. We are getting more aggressive here. We're not throwing away the counter spell, but we're obviously going to be using Supreme Will here so that we can keep up the aggression, swing in for another 5 and get them down to 9. And we're going to be able to draw some cards, or draw a card anyways. So here I picked the Forest. We had, I almost skipped through it. We have the Oasis Ritualist, we have Cancel, and we have Essence Scatter. And I decided to take the Forest because I really thought that was more important, especially because that means I can play the Forest this turn and get the Frilled Sandwalla out. We've got an Air Force going on here. We're going to get to cast the Curator of Mysteries the very next turn, which is going to give us another 4/4 flyer. So once again, keeping up the aggression, I didn't think we needed to play like a control game at this point. I think it was really a matter of getting more creatures on the board before creatures that have Afflict or Menace can start whittling us down to 0 health. Anyways, Moving on, we're going to put those on the bottom of the deck. We're going to swing in for 5. And we're going to go ahead and play the Forest and cast the Frilled Sandwalla. So we're doing pretty good, in my opinion. We got a decent board presence here. They had 2 of them. So they end up cycling their other Horror of Broken Lands, which is good for me because it means that they're definitely sort of hunting and they're not going to be able to... they don't have the answers in their hand that they're hoping for. So this is a very similar board to what they had last time. So once again, the Afflict would be much more damaging to us, as would the Menace, if we weren't already ahead of damage. So I'm glad I was making the decision to sort of try to push forward with the damage as quickly as possible. So they're going to swing in with 5, but I'm not super concerned about it. I mean, we're not winning this race by a lot, but we are winning this race so far. Okay, so here we catch Gift of Strength as our next card. Now, we have the possibility of doing lethal here. If I cast Gift of Strength on the Frilled Sandwalla before combat, this is going to create, or this is going to make Riddle Form a 3/3 flyer. The Frilled Sandwalla will be a 5/5 flyer, and then I can pump it up again with 2 to make it a 7/7, allowing us to do 10 damage. They have 1 blue up, and I know they have Unsummon. So my main concern at this point, at least I believe, did they have Unsummon? I think they showed that they had Unsummon, unless I'm thinking of the first opponent we played. But my main concern here is if I go ahead and do that, and they cast Unsummon on the Frilled Sandwalla right after I do Gift of Strength, we are going to be missing out on the possibility of locking in lethal the next turn. Now, probably was still a safe bet to go ahead and do what I just said there, to cast Gift of Strength pre-combat, make it through 3 flyer, turn this into a 7/7, and swing in for lethal. However, I decide to instead swing in with both of these, try to draw in the block, and then pump this up. Probably not the best idea ever. I mean, I could have also just swung in with the Frilled Sandwalla and then cast Curator, and that almost would have locked the game for us. But yeah, so this is going to go on 1 more round than it probably should have, because I think I was being too cautious about them having an Unsummon. So you do end up blocking. Their creature dies. They take just 2 damage from us, so they're at 7, which is not the worst, but now we can almost guarantee next turn that we're going to be able to kill them with Gift of Strength. And I go ahead and cast the River Hoopoe. So we have 3 by air next turn, potentially 5 by air even without casting Gift of Strength. An additional 3/3 flyer. We're pretty much set for winning this game unless they have something super tricky this turn. So they go ahead and cycle the Desert of Mindful, which once again I'm happy about because it means they're looking for answers and hopefully they don't find it. And now that they're tapped out and have cast one of their spells, I know they can't do anything. I don't have to worry about Unsummon being in their hand, so we know we've got the game on lock here. So they swing in, they keep up 1 blocker, which makes sense. However, because we have Gift of Strength and we're going to cast it here, not pre-combat, we're instead going to swing in. I thought for sure I would cast it pre-combat to guarantee it. It doesn't really matter because I can cast it post-combat and it's still going to end up being lethal, but I probably should have cast that pre-combat. So I pump that up and I go ahead and cast Gift of Strength and we win the game. So yes, we should have probably won this particular game and thus the match 1 turn earlier if I wasn't so paranoid about Unsummon. But still, we won, which means we're going to be moving on to the next match, and also means that we're 1 match win away from getting 2 packs out of the Swiss draft. So let's move on to the first game of the 3rd match and see how we do there. Okay, so we are playing first, and let's see what our opening hand is here. So we have Desert of the Mindful, we have a Forest, we have no 2-drops, we have a couple of 3-drops, or actually 3 3-drops. And we can also cycle the Striped Riverwinder, however, because the Desert of the Mindful is going to enter tapped, we're not going to be able to cycle it on the first turn. Now, do I keep this opening hand? I do end up keeping this opening hand. Maybe I shouldn't have, but still, it's a decision I made, so we're watching this in replay. It's not like I can really affect anything. So there we go. We catch another island, which is good for us. We now have 3 lands, and we're going to be able to cycle the Riverwinder, and I'm fairly certain that's what I do at the end of this. Yes, I do end up cycling the Riverwinder. So the Oasis Ritualist, we're not going to be able to cast for a while, but this is definitely going to be great for us because it is ramp. It's going to allow us, if we catch our 4th land, to actually cast the Bitter Bow the following turn, regardless of whether we get more land or not. Now here, I think I hold back so that I can flash out the Nimble Obstructionist, or cancel, or Supreme Will, or basically have a whole lot more options than I would have if I just cast Scribe of the Mindful. This sort of thing has bit me in the ass before, but I feel better about it because this time I can force them at the end of their turn to use a counter spell if they have it, because I'll just flash out the Nimble Obstructionist, and if they counter that, then they will be tapped out for our following turn. So they swing in for 1, and they go ahead and tap down their mana, which makes me feel good because then I know for sure I am not going to be running into a counter spell on my turn. I get to cancel that. I thought I was going to flash out the Nimble Obstructionist, but instead I canceled it. I might have wanted to use Supreme Will there instead, but I like the idea of having Supreme Will either as a counter spell and its secondary ability, so I just went ahead and got rid of the cancel, even though the cancel is unconditional. That may not have been the best choice, but it's the choice I made. So now we have 4 lands, which is great because we can get the Oasis Ritualist out. I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit here. So they go ahead and cycle Floodwaters at the beginning of their turn, making their creature unblockable. I mean, we keep running into this guy, no matter who we're playing, it seems, and he's doing work. He's definitely doing work for our opponents. This is great because we get to be able to get the Slither Blade out, and we can still cast any number of other spells in our hand. Instead, I think I go ahead and, bring out the Bitter Boar Sharpshooters. Bitter Bow Sharpshooters, for the 3rd time trying to say that correctly. It's a 4/4 with Vigilance and Reach. It's just a beast when it hits the board. It's forcing them to basically come up with some sort of removal for it or something. I knew they weren't going to counter it because they only have 1 island up, so we're going to go ahead and press the advantage while we have it. Now, they don't seem to catch another land, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. They're cycling, so maybe they're going to draw into the land. They either just didn't play it yet or did draw into another land. And Wall of the Forgotten Pharaohs, which I don't really care about because the Bitter Bow is going to be able to kill the wall if it decides to block. And now this is unblockable, so we're definitely going to be taking 2 more, but very, very quickly we're going to be able to start turning the tides as far as damage goes. So I don't swing in with the Ritualist because I want to be able to keep it up for mana instead. They let the 4 go through, which is fine, and this remains untapped because of Vigilance, and we get both the Slither Blade out, and we get Scribe? Yes, Scribe out. Now, this, because we can exert this for 2 mana, and we still have 1 up, we can still cast either Supreme Will or Nimble Obstructionist. So I'm more than happy to get an unblockable creature on the board and another 2/2, especially one that could potentially fetch us our counterspell again. So they, a little bit indecisive about how they want to tap their mana, and then they decide to cast Soul Stinger. Now, Soul Stinger is definitely something I don't want to hit the board, so I go ahead and cast Supreme Will. Fortunately, that exerts this, but it's fine because we actually have a ton of mana, and should still be able to have enough mana for Obstructionist next turn, and possibly even cast something. So I'm much happier to use Supreme Will there and cast Soul Stinger, and I don't mind exerting the Ritualist for it. Now, they don't swing in because this wasn't unblockable, and this works out perfectly for us because now we can cast Riddle Form, and we still have enough mana to either use its cycling ability or flash out the Obstructionist the next turn. So here we go ahead and swing in with both the Bitter Bow and the Slither Blade because we know that there's no good blocks for them. They can't block, obviously, the Slither Blade, and they're either going to lose their wall or their other creature if they try to back block the Bitter Bow. Too much commentary, too quickly. My brain is not catching up with my tongue. Okay, so we got Riddle Form out there. Now they cast another Wall of Forgotten Pharaohs. So they've got quite a little army of walls here. And they're going to cast, I believe... Oh no, okay, I thought it was going to be another wall. It is a Vile Manifestation, which is fine. Which is absolutely fine. It's only a 2/4. And they still don't have any really good blocks for the Sharpshooter here. And we're going to go ahead and flash out Obstructionist because at this point it's very, very useful to have a 3/1 flyer. They got nothing that can block flying, so we can start swinging in by air. So it's potentially 8 damage coming towards them. They do decide to block with the wall. I think they're going to do one little bit of... Oh, they didn't. They didn't tap it before it died. Okay, I'm surprised about that. I've screwed that up as well too, so it's not the end of the world for them. And we do, by the way, we caught a Countervailing Winds, which isn't the best counterspell, but it's not bad for us right now. We have 3 cards in the graveyard, so it is actually it's basically Supreme Will right now. Now, in this particular instance, before I had mentioned in the very first match about whether or not it was a good idea to counter the card draw or counter possibly the spell that would be cast after the card draw. In this case, I do think it was the right decision to counter the actual card draw. Triggers the Riddle Form, and that doesn't matter. And at that point, yes, they decide to scoop. So we're going to move on to the second game of this match. That game went really, really well. We'll see if the next game goes even half as well as this one. Okay, so our opponent decides to play first. Now, our opening hand is 3 forests. We can't seem to catch a lot of good opening hands, or really, like, not necessarily good opening hands. We have had some wonderful opening hands, but it seems like either our hands are perfect, or they're these opening hands which really make you wonder whether or not it's best to keep or move on. Here, I don't even remember what I did. I think because we came off a win, I think I ended up keeping this. No, I do end up mulliganing, which was probably the best decision I could have made. So in this case, we are going to be able to get the Stalwart out on 2. We can play the Desert Mindful right off the bat, and especially because it comes into play tapped. We have a Slitherblade, and I do put that on top. Now, I think because I put the Slitherblade on top, I don't think I'm going to end up casting. I'm going to end up playing the Desert of the Mindful right off the bat. I think instead I want to get my Slitherblade out first. Yes, so I don't cast, for the love of God, man, I don't play the Desert of the Mindful so that I can get my creature out instead. Now, they got a wall up, but it doesn't really matter because this is unblockable, so their wall be damned. Plus, as well, too, the Stalwart will be able to ignore creatures that have power of 2 or less, so the wall won't be able to stop the Stalwart either. So as far as creatures go, we do have the perfect answers for their wall. We have one which is a 4/4, which we're not able to cast yet, and then we have both a unblockable and something that will be unblockable to any of their walls. And they cast another wall. So we are now a little worried about possibly taking 2 at the end of each of our turns, but still, it's not super, super important right now because it is the beginning of the game. Now here I'm going to swing in with both, and I'm fairly certain I exert the Stalwart as well too. Yes, I do. So, I mean, it won't be untapping next turn, but it's still, we're going to be swinging in for 4. And I hold up, and I'm fairly certain I flash out the Nimble Obstructionist here. Yes, and a fourth wall. Ed's good at math. It's a 3rd wall, which would be really, really devastating against most hands, I think, or against most board states. However, we've got unblockables and we've got flyers, so their walls aren't really going to be doing much for them. So yes, we do flash out the Obstructionist. We don't catch another land. I'm going to go ahead now and play the Desert of the Mindful, I think. Am I not going to play the Desert of the Mindful? Swinging for 4 here. I'm going to take 2 from their tap abilities. Yes, I do play it. I was wondering why on earth I wouldn't play that. I thought maybe I was going to cycle it and then try to cycle the Riverwinder and find a non-tap land that we could get, but I'm glad I ended up playing that because otherwise I wouldn't have understood why I did that. So they're actually doing pretty good for land. They now have something that can block the Stalwart, but not, obviously, the Obstructionist with flying or the Slitherblade. But it is now a 4/2, so they do have something that's going to be able to start doing some damage to us. Now, we draw into the Curator of Mysteries. So, I'm about to cycle the Countervailing Winds, and I'm bringing this up now because we cycled into a Curator of Mysteries. It might not have been the best decision at this point to then cycle the Curator of Winds, because it would have been more useful after the Curator of Mysteries is out, but that still wouldn't have been able to happen for a couple more turns. I wanted to get more playable cards in my hand, so that's why I decided to cycle Countervailing Winds here. And we do end up catching something that's useful. We catch the Cartouche of Knowledge, which is great because now The Obstructionist obviously can't be blocked by any of their creatures, neither can the Slither Blade, and once we give the Stalwart flying, neither will it be able to be blocked by any of their creatures. So I am kind of glad that I ended up cycling Countervailing Winds. And as well too, because we cycled both those, our next draw on the actual draw step was the Rivered Hoopoe. Now, I specifically remember this part of the game. You've got two spells. You've got the Cartouche of Knowledge and you got the River Hoopoe. You got 4 mana up. The Cartouche of Knowledge costs 1 blue and 1 of anything else. The River Hoopoe costs a green and a blue. There is a way to tap those 4 lands so that you can play both of them on the same turn. And this, folks, is not how you do it. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. I would like to say I misclicked, but I know I didn't. I just sort of rushed through, and then instantly, however, after casting the Cartouche of Knowledge and seeing what I tapped for it, I realized the stupid mistake I just made. Now, it's not the end of the world, because we're still going to be able to swing in for a total of 7 here. But still, I felt pretty stupid for it, especially considering the fact that I could have cast them both. Oh well, life, you know, that's the way it works sometimes. You just make stupid mistakes, but you have to pick yourself up and move on, and that's what I'm going to do here. We did draw into a Quarry Beetle, which isn't going to be a huge issue for us or boon for us in just a second, as you can see, because we're going to swing in for 7. They're going to tap for 3. I mean, these things would definitely have been able to do a lot more work for him if we didn't quite have the board state that we had, but luckily we had this board state which is able to ignore those guys as blockers, and we're putting a lot of pressure on him as far as damage goes. Okay, so potentially this turn, if they wanted to, they could swing in for 4 and then do an additional 3, taking us down to 7, which means that they would be having us at lethal the following turn. However, we've got now 2 flyers in the air. We've got the Slither Blade. They don't know, but we have another 4/4 flyer if we want it, or the River Hoopoe or whatever. So it's looking pretty grim for our opponent. However, if they draw into something, they could still sort of turn the tides of this game. However, our opponent scoops, which means they didn't draw into any answers that they needed. So we go 2-1 in this Swiss draft, meaning we win 1 pack of Hour of Devastation and 1 pack of Amonkhet. Not the best draft I've ever done, but not the worst, certainly. It's always nice when you walk away with something at the end of one of these drafts. So there you go, folks. I hope you enjoyed the draft and the matches. Once again, I was really hoping this would be sort of commentary done over the games while I was actually playing them. Fortunately, the audio got kind of messed up. That didn't end up happening. I hope you guys don't mind the replays. I don't mind doing the replays because it actually gives me a moment to sort of take a step back and analyze the game and talk about that while I play. But there's also still something about being able to talk about a game which is unfolding before you. So let me know in the comment section below which you actually prefer. Do you prefer commentary over replays, or do you prefer commentary being done as someone is actually playing live? Because I definitely want to hear your feedback, and I can take that into account providing I don't screw up audio in future matches and games. As well too, if you have any other questions, comments, concerns, advice, please leave that in the comment section below as well too, or you can contact and follow me on Twitter at BrainPulpTV, or you can contact and follow me on my personal Twitter account at Geek Tragedy. And with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching and for all the support you show the channel. It means a lot to me. May all your decks go undefeated, and I'll see you all again real soon.